was playing PlayStation. My pencil was erasing lines. My conscience only knew was half tight. At 3:14, it's time to get me a slice, my nigga. This is a dog's fight, my nigga.
I was copying, and I was, I was doing what I thought was cool at the moment. Everybody else was talking about the shit.
On June 17, 1987, Kendrick Lamar Duckworth was born in Compton, California. His mother Paula and his father Kenny Duckworth moved from Chicago with hopes for a better life. But Compton was no easy place for growing up. Gangs, violence, and poverty were around every corner, painting a tough reality that their family witnessed daily. As a child, Kendrick wasn't shielded from the hardships of this environment. His father himself was connected to gang life at one point, but he left it behind to provide Kendrick a different path. Growing up in this environment, he absorbed everything he saw, every story, every struggle, every lesson. One moment in particular he stated changed his life forever. That was in 1995 when he was just 8 years old. He watched Dr. Dre and Tupac filming the music video for California Love right in his neighborhood. It goes without saying he was mesmerized. That day he saw not only hip-hop legends, but a future he himself could dream of.
I was around 8 years old. They were shooting a video in my neighborhood in Compton. My father seen him, went 2 blocks down, got me. By the time he got me, everybody was out there. It was like pandemonium, He put me on his shoulders, and there they was, Dr. Dre and Tupac right there, and I think it was a white Bentley. Yep, they were shooting a video, and that moment right there, whether I know it or not, subconsciously, I think it, eventually branched me off to what I'm doing now.
He was a quiet kid, not the one causing trouble, but always watching and listening. His mother noticed his gift for storytelling early on and encouraged him to write down his thoughts. By the time he was a teenager, Kendrick was already writing poems and lyrics that reflected the world around him. At age 16, he began rapping under the name K-Dot. He said he wasn't just rapping for fun though. He was crafting a voice and even more an identity. Even in his earliest work, you could sense how serious he took it.
Oh no, but you best to call a doctor. I make sure them rookie medical surgeons get out. Braid on you, pistol whip and break the face on you. Shit I does it my way like Sinatra. I let them infrareds down mission, dot you, scope and spot you. Move wrong and I got you.
You could tell he had a point that he was determined to prove. Compton shaped his world, and he understood that his path wouldn't be easy. You see, when Kendrick started rapping under the name K-Dot, he was still in high school. While other kids his age were focused on school or hanging out on the block, Kendrick was focused on the studio, spending all his free time trying to make a way out. His first mixtape, Youngest Head in Charge, dropped in 2003 when he was only 16 years old. It was filled with the rough edges of a young artist who knew he had a story to tell, but you could see he was still finding his voice. Even though it wasn't a huge hit, it still got people talking, including the team at Top Dog Entertainment. TDE saw something special in him, a real hunger to succeed, especially for his age. They immediately signed him, and that was really just the start of a long partnership. He worked hard, recording non-stop to perfect his music. His lyrics were different from what others were rapping about. Instead of talking about expensive cars or parties, he told stories about life in Compton, the struggles of his family, and the tough life on the streets. Over time, his storytelling skills got better. Kendrick saw himself as a voice for his generation, but he knew he had to work extra hard to get noticed. TDE gave him a platform, but Kendrick's hard work and vision helped him rise. He wrote, rewrote, and listened to feedback to improve. Eventually, his stage name, K-Dot, no longer felt like it fit him or the message he wanted to share, so he started performing under his real name, and that was the start of Kendrick Lamar.
That's where you got your name from, bro? Eddie Kendrick. They did not name you after Eddie Kendrick. Oh, that's dope right there. That's dope.
Never spoken, huh? That's fair.
Feeling like I'ma live my life in a high rise, over the bullshit, laughing at my allies, shoot for the stars.
This change came with his mixtape Overly Dedicated in September 2010, which was a big turning point for him. The mixtape showed his personal struggles, touching deep on topics like gang violence and social injustice. It set him apart from other rappers who focused on bragging. In songs like Ignorance is Bliss, Kendrick showed both criticism and understanding of street life, talking about how easy it is to get trapped in a violent cycle. Overly Dedicated didn't just connect with his fans, it caught the attention of hip-hop legend Dr. Dre, who saw something special in him. This was a huge stepping stone for Kendrick, especially since he had watched Dr. Dre film in his neighborhood as a kid. Dre's support confirmed that Kendrick had made the right choices. Dr. Dre's influence on Kendrick, especially after Overly Dedicated, is significant. He signed him to his label Aftermath Entertainment, which gave him access to a whole new level of resources. And in 2011, Kendrick took another big step with Section 80, his first studio album. This project introduced him to a wider audience, especially in LA. Section 80 was a powerful album about the struggles of a generation shaped by the 1980s crack epidemic and ongoing racism. One standout song, ADHD, talked about the problems young people face in tough neighborhoods, including using drugs to escape pain. The line 8 doobies to the face, fuck that, became a symbol for young people trying to cope with their struggles. He didn't glorify the streets, he showed the harsh reality of it. The album also saw him questioning whether he could actually change things through his music. He said in interviews that he wanted to do more than just rap. He wanted to open people's minds and start important conversations. The project had a big impact, and both critics and fans praised Kendrick for his maturity and insight. This marked Kendrick as a rising voice for those seeking more than just beats and cool bars. But with Good Kid, Mad City in 2012 marked a big shift in his career. He took a big risk by blending deep storytelling with music that appealed to a wider audience. In Mad City, Kendrick raps about the violence in Compton, including his experience witnessing a murder as a young boy. He talks about how dangerous life was for him and everyone around him. He promises to tell the stories of those who didn't survive, which is part of the reason he started rapping in the first place. With help from Dr. Dre, who gave the album a cinematic feel, the album became a hit. It went platinum and is now considered a modern classic. This project propelled him to a level most artists only wish they could achieve. Kendrick had succeeded in bringing Compton's story to the world in a way that felt both personal and universal. With this album, Kendrick Lamar wasn't just a rapper from Compton. He was an artist giving a voice to the struggles and dreams of countless others.
Kendrick Lamar, bring it back to the storytelling and telling real shit that the niggas have been through and you really can relate to.
But after solidifying himself as that voice, he didn't just stop there. Kendrick was about to shake things up.
Come on. Yeah. Punch, what's happening, brother? Niggas be popping that shit to me like it's something new to me or something. Now I'm talking about.
In 2013, on Big Sean's track Control, Kendrick unleashed a bold verse that called out some of the biggest names in the rap game. I'm usually homeboys with the same guys I'm rhyming with, but this is hip-hop and they should know what time it is. He didn't just stop at friendly competition though. He took it a step further by claiming the title King of New York, a line that especially raised eyebrows considering he was from California. Kendrick was challenging nearly every rapper on the scene. Rappers who weren't even mentioned in the verse felt compelled to respond. Some saw it as a personal attack, while others respected the move as a reminder of hip-hop's roots in battle rap and competition.
And that's where you were going when you were so blunt on Control. You were like, I need to say this. This is what I mean.
Yeah, what we doing it for?
Right.
This is culture. This is not something you just play with, get some few dollars and get out. People live their lives to this music, period.
New York rappers in particular, though, weren't thrilled with Kendrick's King of New York claim. Diddy took it as a bold statement, commenting in interviews that Kendrick's audacity was actually refreshing. Quoting, "When I was coming up, I always stated I was a king because I knew who I was. That's like knowledge of self, so with Kendrick being a king, he's a king. But there are some cats who are not kings. You got to be a prince sometimes before you can be a king." In a later interview with Hot 97, Kendrick clarified his intentions.
Man, he's saying he the king of New York.
Yeah.
Can you explain what those words mean?
I think that's the case right there. I maybe have to dumb down my lyrics just a little bit. The irony of that line is the people that actually understood it and got it was the actual kings of New York. Me sitting down with them this past week and them understanding that it's not about actually being the king of whatever coast. It's about leaving a mark. His greatest Biggie is the greatest Pac.
He didn't apologize for calling out other rappers. He stood by his words, using them to remind everyone in hip-hop not to get too comfortable or lazy. His verse got a lot of attention, with fans and critics talking about it everywhere, trying to figure out what it meant for the future of hip-hop. But one thing it definitely did was bring back a sense of competition and ambition in the rap world.
I got a bone to pick. I don't want you monkey mouth motherfucker sitting in my phone again.
In 2015, he released an album called To Pimp a Butterfly, which became a huge moment in his career. This wasn't just music, it was a big, bold statement.
It was me explaining my experiences and what emotions it brought up from that experience and telling them like, yo, it's something bigger than Compton and where we're from.
The music itself also sounded different. It still had hip-hop, but it mixed jazz, funk, and soul. One of the most powerful songs was The Blacker the Berry, where he expressed his anger about racism in society and even talked about some of his own struggles. But the song that really caught everyone's attention was Alright. It became the anthem for the Black Lives Matter movement. The words "We gon' be alright" were chanted at protests around the country, offering hope and strength to people fighting against police violence and racism. Following the success of To Pimp a Butterfly, he continued to solidify his place as one of the most important voices in hip-hop. Later in 2015, he also released Untitled Unmastered, an album of unreleased tracks from Pimp a Butterfly's sessions. While it was a surprise release with no promotion, the album still showcased his ability to push boundaries. Despite all of this, not everyone was happy with his message. After his powerful performance at the BET Awards in 2015, where he stood on top of a police car that had been damaged, a Fox News anchor said something controversial. He claimed that hip-hop, not racism, was the real problem in black communities.
Hip-hop has done more damage to black and brown people than racism in the last 10 years.
This statement upset a lot of people, but it only made Kendrick's music and message even more important. Kendrick didn't let it slide, and instead he decided to speak about it on his next album, Damn. In it, he rapped with a direct reference. "Fox News want to use my name for percentage. Somebody tell Geraldo this dude got ambition." Challenging not only the anchor's comments, but the media's misinterpretation of hip-hop's importance, and how Fox News was using his name to get more views and money. Kendrick explained in interviews that his music wasn't about promoting violence. Instead, it was about talking about the struggles of people who were often ignored or treated unfairly.
I think that's a pure reflection of this record. Prior to me, it's even happening, prior to even coming out. We say, okay, we can't control. Now we see we can't control what's going on out there. You know, it's a whole nother power to be. So what we can do now, we can start coming together and figuring out our own problems and our own solutions, you know? And I think I know this is what this album reflects.
But Rivera didn't back down. He posted a video on Facebook where he called Kendrick's lyrics harmless, but then criticized him for encouraging an us versus them attitude between young people and the police, quoting, "The worst role model, it's the worst example."
I think too much of hip-hop, too much of rap in the last couple of decades has really portrayed the cops as the enemy, as the occupying army in the ghetto, in the inner city, in the urban centers. It's an us against them, where this very popular, powerful art form, this poetry, is being used to really set young people, young minorities, black and Latino principally, against the officers who are sworn to protect them.
Kendrick never responded after that point. For Kendrick, though, the album was his chance to speak up for people who are often overlooked. He wanted to show the struggles, victories, and tough truths about being black in America. When the album was released, it became a huge success. It hit #1 on the Billboard 200 and quickly went multi-platinum. Songs like Humble were so popular they became more than just hits. They became a big part of the culture.
I never been a bitch in my life. I never ran from a fight. I was told when niggas buck, you should bite. And these puppies ain't eating enough pedigree to get something.
In 2018, Kendrick made history by winning the Pulitzer Prize for music with Damn, making him the first artist outside of classical or jazz music to win the award.
The citation for the Pulitzer Prize in Music for distinguished musical composition by an American that has had its first performance or recording in the United States during the year. Awarded to Damn by Kendrick Lamar.
The Pulitzer community praised the album for its powerful storytelling and the way it highlighted the struggles and experiences of modern African American life. Beyond winning the Pulitzer Prize, he would also receive numerous other awards, including multiple Grammys, which only solidified his place among the hip-hop elite. In 2022, he released an album called Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, which was all about therapy, healing, and dealing with the pain passed down through families. This time showing a more personal side of Kendrick, showing the struggles he faces as a person and as an artist. The album was split into 2 parts, with each part reflecting Kendrick's feelings and thoughts. He talked about the tough experiences from his family, being a father, and the challenges of being famous. One of the key songs, Father Time, had Kendrick talking about how his father's lessons shaped him, especially the tough ideas about what it means to be a man. Another song, Mother I Sober, dealt with his family's struggles and the strength they showed, giving a very honest look at the pain passed down through generations. He was open about his flaws, and he talked about his struggles with mental health, his fears, and even his regrets. Especially because it was so personal. It was one of his boldest projects, but not everyone connected with it the same way as his earlier music. But after all of this, Kendrick would find himself in the middle of one of hip-hop's biggest rivalries, his long-standing feud with Drake. But things changed after Kendrick's verse on Big Sean's Control in 2013, which stirred up the competition and tension as I mentioned before. Drake couldn't ignore Kendrick's verse on Control. Just mentioning Drake's name put pressure on him as one of hip-hop's biggest stars. At first, Drake just brushed it off, saying in an interview with Billboard that Kendrick's verse was just a moment and not really a big deal.
That's it. It's like, you know, he's the new guy to love, and of course, I mean, rightfully so. He's super talented, you know. But thank you. But he's but he's like, you know, he is the underdog that's extremely hungry, you know what I'm saying? And he's doing his thing really well. And that verse was, he's giving people like moments, you know, like that verse was a moment to talk about.
For a while, the rivalry between Kendrick and Drake stayed quiet, with both throwing small jabs at each other. In 2016, Kendrick seemed to bring it up again in The Heart Part 4, rapping "Tables turn, lessons learned, my best look. You jump sides on me, now you about to meet Westbrook." Many thought this was a shot at Drake, who had recently been in a feud with rapper Meek Mill. The feud only got worse in 2024 when Kendrick released a diss track called Like That with Future and Metro Boomin. This time, Kendrick clearly took aim at Drake with lines that made it personal. In the song, Kendrick also dismissed the idea of there being a big three in rap, saying "it's just me," challenging the idea that he, Drake, and J. Cole were the top 3 rappers and claiming that he was the only true leader. Drake responded with a song called Push Ups, calling Kendrick a pipsqueak and mocking his size and influence, even suggesting that other rappers were better than him. Kendrick came back with Euphoria, questioning Drake's authenticity by saying, "Somebody had told me you got a ring. On God, I'm ready to double the wage," hinting that Drake's success might not be as real as it seems. Then Kendrick released 616 in LA, mocking Drake's dance move Tootsie Slide, and accusing members of Drake's OVO of disloyalty, rapping "Can't Tootsie Slide up out of this one." In response, Drake dropped Family Matters, bringing up personal issues in Kendrick's life, including allegations of domestic violence. This was a big step in the feud as it made things much more personal. Less than an hour later, Kendrick fired back with Meet the Grams, where he went after Drake's family and accused him of being a bad father, and even running a sex trafficking ring. Kendrick rapped, "Dear Aubrey, there's supposed to be a good exhibition within the game, but you fucked up the moment you called out my family's name." The rivalry reached its peak with Kendrick's song Not Like Us, which became a huge hit. In the track, he accused Drake of predatory behavior, rapping "Certified Lover Boy, Certified Pedophile." The song's success was partially due to its controversial content, and a music video full of hidden meanings. People had mixed reactions to the beef. While the diss tracks reignited the rivalry, they also showed off both artists' skills and competitive nature of hip-hop. By May of 2024, Drake had publicly said that he was moving on from the feud and focusing on being more positive. As of right now, Kendrick hasn't responded, leaving fans wondering if he had truly let the beef go. Throughout his career, Kendrick has always focused on making meaningful art over chasing fame. If that wasn't enough, Kendrick Lamar was also chosen to perform at the 2025 Super Bowl halftime show. His fans were super excited because they saw it as a big honor for him and his impact on music. But not everyone agreed. Some people thought Kendrick wasn't the best choice, especially since the Super Bowl was in New Orleans. Many fans thought that a local artist like Lil Wayne would be a better fit to represent the city, while others are curious about what message he's gonna send on such a big stage. From growing up in Compton to selling out arenas, Kendrick's life has been nothing less than miraculous. He's faced tough times and challenges, but that's what makes him stand out. He's always willing to rap about the hard parts of life, even if it means facing his own past, and staying true to yourself can help you succeed. One thing is clear, Kendrick Lamar is going to be around for a long time, not just changing music, but telling the story of his generation.